All right, how is everybody today? We want to welcome you to our Woodlake Addiction Recovery 12-step education. This session today, we're going to be talking on step 11. Step 11 says sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him. Praying only for the knowledge of His will, the power to carry that out. Now, step 11 is what we've been trying to get to, okay? And they tell me that if I've done some work up to this point, I've got some things turned over, I've got some things, the blocks out the way, I've tapped into this power, I continue tapping into it on a daily basis in step 10. And that's where I actually make the conscious contact through the 10th step. And then I improve on that with prayer and meditation. Now, if you are joining us, if you're joining us remotely, if you're tuning in, what we ask is that you mute your mic. Because if you're tuning in and you do not mute your mic, it feeds through and it will ruin the whole recording. So what we ask, if you're joining us, to please mute your mic, okay? Now, what we do is in every session, we go back and we do some recapping, okay? And today we're on 11, so we're going to recap 1 through 10 for about the first 15, 20 minutes. We're going to jump into 11. Now, I know when I was in treatment, and I was in a very good 12-step based, big book based treatment center like Woodlake Addiction Recovery is, that every time they would start recapping, the first couple of days I was in there, I was thinking to myself, golly, I've heard this shit before. And probably about the end of that first week, some things really started clicking. And every time that I would hear the same information in the recap part of this thing, I would try to get something different out of it every time. And you know, I can use the time wisely or I can waste the time. And anytime a person says, well, I've heard this before, then they're sort of in trouble. Because in this program, if I'm growing and changing on a daily basis, every time I hear the same information, I should get something different out of it. So when I hear the same information, if I get something different out of it, that's a good sign for an alcoholic like me, because that means I am changing and growing on a daily basis. Now, the three things we've been trying to get across to you in these 12 steps is the problem, the solution to the problem, and a planned program of action that you can take that'll get you out the problem into the solution. Now, those three things, problem, solution, plan of action, that's basic problem solving. No matter what the problem is, if you apply those three pieces to the puzzle to that problem, you can solve it. And the three pieces to problem solving are, you have to understand the problem, you have to know the solution, and you have to have a planned program of action that you can take that will actually get you out of the problem into the solution. Now, step 1 is a problem statement. And in step 1, they explain the problem when it comes to my using. And they explain this to me. They say it's twofold. Part of it is physical, the body, and part of it is mental, the mind. Now, the physical part that they're talking about is what Dr. Silkworth refers to in the doctor's opinion as the physical allergy. And he said this allergy has manifested itself through the phenomenon of craving. So what all that means is, when an alcoholic like me puts the first one in, I set this allergy off, it produces a physical craving, my body takes over, and my body tells my mind what to do, which is to go get some more. And I end up on a well-known spree. And when I come up off a bad spree where I've gotten family trouble, work trouble, financial trouble, legal trouble, when I come up for air, I sing the Alcoholics National Anthem. I will never do that shit again. So what I try to do is live in my own skin for a couple of hours, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and I start a little build up emotionally. I get irritable, I get restless, I get discontented. And I build up so much emotionally, the mental obsession kicks back in and says, man, you need some relief. And at this point, I probably do. So it tells me, put one in. That gives you some relief. So I put the first one in. I get some ease and comfort. The obsession goes away for the moment, but I set the allergy back off. The allergy produces the physical craving. My body takes back over and overrules. I'm just going to do one or two, and then end up right back on a spree. And I keep piling problems on top of problems on top of problems on top of problems. And as you heard me say before, I look up and I have more problems than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. And I just keep adding problems on top of problems on top of problems on top of problems. Now, if you take these two things, if you take the obsession and you couple it with the allergy, these two things render me powerless. See, if I can't stay stopped because of the obsession, and once I put the first one in, I can't control how much I'm going to use because of the allergy, I'm one powerless ass person. Now, where we're going to do all our work, where we're going to recover in this thing, is in the mind. See, for about 26, 27 years, I drank and drug. And I could not put the first one in. And after a bunch of, as the book says, experimenting, I tried all kinds of shit. I come into this 12-step based, big book based treatment center, and they start telling me about this obsession and this allergy, and I go, son of a bitch, that's me. And it's like a light bulb went off. And it really hit me that if something didn't give here, and with the obsession, I would continue to put the first one in, and every time I put the first one in, it was pretty much a wrap. The end result was going to be a spree. So where we're going to do all our work with the steps is in the mind, not the body. Now, the solution is very simple if a person understands the problem. If you don't understand the problem, you pretty much won't do this solution like it's going to be asked of you. And this is the mistake I see a lot of people make. They come in and you explain the allergy and they go, oh yeah, but the obsession, it goes whoop, right over their head. So what they think they need to do is just go to a bunch of meetings. So they go to a bunch of meetings, they never do any step work, and guess what creeps back up on them? The obsession. It overrules everything. They put one back in them and they off to the races again. Now, the solution that works on this problem is also twofold. Part of the solution is in the fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. And in this fellowship, that's where I'm going to go to the meetings. And in these meetings, I'm going to get a lot of support. That's what the meetings do. That's what the fellowship does. It supports me. But where the real power, the real change is going to come is when I start doing the program of AA. That's the steps. And the program of AA is in the first 103 pages of the big book. They give me precise, clear-cut directions on how to do the 12 steps. And if I take these steps the way the first 103 pages of the book say, I'm going to have this personality change or this spiritual awakening that they're talking about. And I'm going to have tapped into some power as a result of these two things, the fellowship and the steps. Because if the problem's powerless, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out it's going to take some power to solve the problem of powerless. Now, in step one, they give me the problem. Step two, they give me the solution. And in step three, they just say, decide which one you want more. You want to stay stuck in the problem and get everything that comes along with that? Or do you want some power? Do you want some real help? Now, if I decide all I want to do is go to meetings and not do the steps, what I've really decided to do is to remain powerless. Now, if I decide I don't want no more of this shit and I'm all in over here, I want to get out of the problem and start living in the solution. The way I carry out the step 3 decision, I follow it up with some strenuous action. And we got some action steps outlined in the first 103 pages of the big book, which are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And these are the steps we take, which tap me into the power. Once I've taken 4 through 9 and I've tapped into this power, as you were listening in the previous session, I start doing step 10, which is a repracticing of the action steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I just call it step 10 now. And every time I do 10, which is repracticing 4 through 9, I tap into this power even deeper. Then, once I'm tapped in, prayer and meditation, what we're going to talk on today, actually will start paying some real good dividends for me. And then I got a message to carry to the next suffering alcoholic. So to sum this up, steps 1, 2, and 3 put me in a position to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which put me in a position to do 10, 11, and 12. But everything I do, everything I do in this program or don't do in this program hinges on how well I've understood the problem. But see, once I understood the problem, I attacked this and this like my life depended on it, because it did. Now, we're going to get into step 11, okay? Now, I've studied step 11 extensively, and step 11 does say sought through prayer and meditation. Step 11 doesn't say sought through prayer and medication. It says prayer and meditation. I'm sure it does. Now, if you show me an alcoholic, I will show you somebody who has used prayer and medication. Because alcoholics who are drinking and drugging all the time, they got to use some prayer to get their ass out of the situations they've got themselves into. Now, you've been using prayer and medication, and that doesn't work too good. So maybe prayer and meditation will. Now, when I first came in to that big book-based 12-step-based treatment center, they told me some things early on. And when I first heard them, I was sort of offended. You know, because those alcoholics, we can't take much. Now, they told me the way that I had been praying, quit doing it. And this is what they said. We're not saying the way you were praying is wrong. That's not why we're telling you to quit doing it. What we're telling you is the way you've been praying isn't working. So if it's not working, why do you want to keep doing the same thing? And that made a lot of sense to me. See? But by this time, my mind had started to open up a little bit. See? I'd started to open my mind up and let all that old bullshit out. And when some of that old bullshit started going out, it cleared some room up here for some new shit to come in. You see, before I came into That treatment center, this thing up here was packed, and it was packed with bullshit. And nothing new could come in. So when I opened my mind up a little bit, because you know alcohol's a great persuader, it'll make you open-minded. When I opened my mind up, some of that old shit and old ideas and old beliefs started to leave, some new ones started to come in. Now, what they're going to do in step 11, what they're going to do in the big book, they're going to give me some suggestions on how I can take these suggestions, and what will happen is my prayer and meditation life will improve. I'm not going to become a Buddhist monk. I'm not going to become a priest. The only thing I'm looking for is for some improvement. Now, what is prayer and what is meditation? Look, I grew up in the late 60s and 70s. And when I heard meditation, this is the first thing that used to come to my mind. This hippie guru with his legs folded up together, trying to levitate up off the ground. That's what I thought meditation was. And I said to myself, well, there ain't no way that shit's happening. But again, I had to let some of those old ideas out so some new ones could come in. Now, prayer is me talking to God. Meditation is me simply listening for that little voice that tells me right from wrong. Now, God gave me one mouth and two ears. And there's a reason why. He wants me to do more listening, meditation, than talking. Look, my prayer life is very short and very simple today. I don't have to tell God what I need and what everybody else needs. He already knows that shit. Where I spend the majority of my time is in the meditation part, the listening to that little voice that tells me, hey, dumbass, don't do that. Now, prayer is talking, meditation is listening. Now, if you took a phone has a talking piece and it has a listening piece. Let's say you were running a real legal, legitimate business and you're sitting at the desk and you got a phone in front of you and it rings. But the phone you got at your desk only has the talking piece. So you answer the phone, you say hello, but you don't have the listening piece to the phone. Could you conduct much good business? No. And what would happen to your business? You would go out of business, bankrupt. Now, let's say you're sitting at this desk and the phone rings and all you got's the listening piece. You ain't got the talking piece. Could you conduct much good business? And the answer to that is no. So what would happen to your business? You would go bankrupt. Now, I don't know about you, but when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, into that treatment center, I only had one piece to the phone. I had the talking piece. See, I prayed a lot, but I didn't do any kind of listening. And what had happened to me is I went bankrupt spiritually. Now, what the first 10 steps have done, or did for me, and millions of other people, they've given me access to both parts of the phone, the talking piece and the listening piece. Now, again, my prayer life is very short, sweet, and simple. Step 11 actually tells me what to pray for. It says I pray only for the knowledge of God's will and the power to carry that out. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm 10-stepping, I pretty much know what God's will is for me. And that's to do the right thing. Now, do I still ask in prayer for my kids, my wife, my family, you guys? I do. But I don't tell God what my kids need, what my family needs, what you need. I just ask that His will is done in y'all's lives. Now, I want you to think about this. How many of us, when we pray, we give God all kinds of damn directions. We tell Him what everybody needs when we don't even know what the hell we need. Look, I can tell you, I can tell anybody, I don't know what my children need. I don't know what my wife needs. I don't know what you need, but I know who does. So when I pray, my prayer life is short, sweet, and simple. Now, how many of us, when we pray for everything under the sun, and at the end we go, and if I forgot anything, grant me that shit too. Look, God's got a lot of people to take care of. He ain't got time to listen to my little petty needs and wants. So my prayer life is short, sweet, and simple. Where I spend the majority of my time is in meditation. Now, they're going to give me 3 simple suggestions. They're going to tell me what to do when I go to bed. They're going to tell me what to do when I wake up. And they're going to tell me what to do as I go through the day. They're going to cover everything. Now, in step 11, this is where I'm going to start to receive. See, the first 10 steps have put me in a position to receive strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. And we're going to read that in just a minute. The first 10 steps have done that. So if I put myself in a position through the first 10 steps, I'm going to start to receive God's will like I never had before. You know, when I finally did steps 4 through 9, and I was really 10-stepping, and I put myself in a position to receive, when I started to receive God's will like I never had before, you know what occurred to me? I never had been a true believer in God. See, a true believer in God, this is what I know today. I don't believe in God. I'm going to say that again. I don't believe in God. I know what God can do for me. I get myself out the way in the 10th step. I put myself in a position to receive God's will in step 11. And then I got a message to carry in step 12. But see, I can't give away something in the 12th step that I haven't received in the 11th step because I made myself ready to receive it in the 10th step. Now, if you were listening yesterday, in yesterday's session, we told you there were 2 types of step 10 inventories, the spot check and the days in. And we told you the days in inventory was going to tie in with the first thing they told me to do in 11. So this is where 10 and 11 tie in together. Now, I want you to open your big book. And I want you to open your big book. We're going to start out on page 85, the second to last paragraph. It says, much has already been said. Look up here. The first 10 steps. See, much has already been said. So the first 10 steps have put me in this position to receive strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If you've carefully followed directions, that's the first 10 steps. You have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into you. To some extent, you have become God conscious. See, I get the God consciousness in the 10th step. I improve on it in 11 with prayer and meditation. I have begun to develop this vital 6th sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. It says step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. And it does say meditation. It doesn't say medication. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. Now, I want you to think about this. It says better men than me are using it constantly. Now, how many of us, we only pray when our ass gets in a jam? And as soon as God gets us out that jam, we don't talk to him anymore until we get in the next jam. So we only use prayer and we never use it constantly. Now, I want you to ask yourself, have you ever used prayer and meditation constantly after you've 10-stepped? And I got to tell you, if you sitting in treatment listening to me, the answer to that shit is no. Now, it says constantly. Now, we're going to pick up from there. It says it works if you have the proper attitude and you work at it. Now, how does a person like me get the proper attitude? That's how, by 10-stepping. This is where I make conscious contact with God. This is where I tap into the power. Now, once I got the proper attitude in 10, that's when 11 starts to pay off. That's where prayer and meditation will actually start to work. Now, how many of y'all have ever started out like a house of fire? You start praying and you start meditating, boy, and you're going to hit the big hog in the ass. And then after a couple of 3 or 4 days of that shit, it starts to peter down. I believe the reason you can't do it constantly and get some good results is because you're not doing this first. Look, if we could just pray and meditate and everything would be great, we wouldn't need but one damn step, the 11th step. But see, we got 12 of some bitches. We got 12 steps, not one. So I got to make myself ready in the 10th step to receive God's will in the 11th step. All right, back in the book. It says it would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. Now, the first suggestion that they're going to give me, okay, take your pen, put you a 1 on the side of the word win and circle it. This is the first suggestion they're going to give you. And this is where 10 and 11 are going to tie in together. It says when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. So what am I going to do right before I go to bed? Another inventory. Now, it does say constructively. It doesn't say destructively. Now, it says when I retire at night. Now, why do you think the first suggestion they're going to give me in prayer and meditation is when I go to bed? Now, how many of y'all have ever went to bed mad at the world? And when your eyes popped open in the morning, you were mad at the world. How many of y'all have ever went to bed obsessing about devil? And when you woke up in the morning, what were you still doing? See, if I go to bed in God's will, when my eyes pop open on awakening, I'm going to already be in God's will. So I got to go to bed right so I can wake up right. Now, I want you to listen to what the first suggestion is going to tell me. It's going to sound a lot like a 10th step. It's going to sound a lot like 4 through 9. Let's read it. It says, I constructively review my day. Where were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Now, what does that sound like? To me, it sounds like another 4 step. Do I owe an apology? Have I kept something to myself which should be discussed with another person at once? Was I kind and loving toward all? Now, what I just did again in that first suggestion in 11, this is where 10 and 11 tie in together, was 4 through 9. I don't know if you're picking up on this or not, but they are 4 through 9 in me to death. See, anybody, any great spiritual person over the years, if you ever really got to talk to them, read about them, every great spiritual person does that shit right there. They inventory, they look at themselves, they really try to change, and when they're wrong, they'll tell you, I was wrong, what can I do to make it right? So they're 4 through 9 in me to death. I did 4 through 9 as a result of the step 3 decision. I'm repeating 4 through 9 and 10, and now I'm doing this yet again. Okay, back in the book. What could I have done better? Now, if you notice, they got question marks after each one of these. So they want me to ask myself this question. Was I thinking of myself most of the time, or was I thinking what I could do for others, what I could pack into the stream of life? We must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish my usefulness to others. Because see, look, if I'm really getting honest with myself and I'm asking myself those questions, and I'm honest with myself, I'm going to see where I made some mistakes. And they tell me, okay, it says, don't sweat the shit. Don't drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish your usefulness to God. Now, after I do the little review, listen to what it says. After making my review, and it does say after the damn review, I ask God's forgiveness. I ask, so I say a little prayer. Then it says, I inquire. Different word that means the same thing as listening. See, I listen to what corrective measures should be taken. So I do the review first, and after the review, I do some prayer and meditation. I ask God for forgiveness because I know I made some mistakes, and then I do some listening on what corrective measures. See, those questions I ask myself, I should start to get some answers. That little voice that tells me right from wrong. Now, that's suggestion 1. Now, if I'm 10th stepping, I'm doing this first suggestion every night before I go to bed. Guess what I'm going to start to be able to do when I put my head on my pillow? Sleep. I'm going to be able to sleep and sleep good. And when my eyes pop open in the next morning, when my eyes pop open, I go, shit, yeah, I'm ready to go. How many of y'all, when y'all's eyes pop open, y'all go, oh shit, I'm awake again? Or how many of y'all, when y'all wake up, you're more tired than when you went to sleep? So suggestion 1 told me what to do before I go to bed. It says when I retire at night, it tells me what to do. Now, if I went to bed right, see, if I've done what that first suggestion said, I went to bed in God's will. Now, the second suggestion, get your pen back out. The second suggestion says on awakening. Put you a 2 on the side of on awakening. This is the second suggestion. Now, if you went to bed right, when your eyes pop open in the morning on awakening, right when your eyes pop open, guess whose will you still in? God's will. And that's when on awakening will actually work. Now, I don't know about you, but when my eyes pop open in the morning and I'm awake, I'm in my bed. See, it doesn't say the second suggestion. It don't say after I have coffee, shit, shower, shave, smoke 3 cigarettes, and drink 5 cups of coffee, I do this. Because if I do all that shit first, I'm not in God's will anymore. I'm back in my will. And on awakening won't work. It'd be a bunch of just lip service. So I go to bed right, and right when my eyes pop open, I'm still in God's will, and that's when the second suggestion actually works. Now let's read what it says. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Now, it does say 24 hours ahead. It don't say 48 hours ahead or 48 hours that have just passed. God gives me enough of his bread, enough of his strength for one day, 24 hours. If I overload it with tomorrow's problems or yesterday's problems, the bread that God gave me for that day is not sufficient. See, in the Lord's Prayer, it says, give us this day our daily bread. See, it don't say, give me this week, my damn weekly bread or last week's bread. It says, today. That's what God gives me. And if I overload it with yesterday's problems or tomorrow's problems, the bread that he gave me for that day will not be sufficient. So that's why it says we think about the 24 hours ahead. I consider my plans for the day. Now, considering my plans for the day and planning the outcome for the day are 2 completely different things. Look, it tells me to consider my plans for the day. But when my plans don't go exactly like I want them to, that's God's will. See, sometimes Kevin don't get what Kevin wants all the time. So sometimes what I want doesn't go in accordance with God's will. Now, how many times have I prayed for God's will to be done? It didn't go my way. It actually went God's way, and I got mad at the shit. So I consider my plans for the day. Before I begin, I ask God. See, I say a little prayer. And this is what I ask, that he direct my thinking. Because what follows my thinking are my actions. And if my thinking is God-directed in God's will, my actions are going to be the same. So I ask God to direct my thinking, especially asking it be divorced from oxy, roxy, and heroin. That's not what it says. It says, I ask especially that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, what conditions? God directed my thinking. Under those conditions, I can employ my mental faculties with assurance. Now, way back when they told me the main problem for the alcoholic center is in the mind, not the body, and they're telling me here I can employ my mental faculties with assurance. I don't know about you, but that's a hell of a result for a person like me. For after all, God gave us brains to use, not abuse. My thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when my thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Now, suggestion 1 told me what to do when I go to bed. Suggestion 2 told me what to do on awakening. See, they're not leaving nothing out when I go to bed, when I wake up. Now, the third suggestion is going to tell me what to do as I go through the day. So I want you to take your pen again, where it says in thinking, put you a 3 there. So they covered night, when I wake up, and now as I go through the day. See, this book doesn't give alcoholics any loopholes to jump through. And the reason it don't give us any loopholes because a bunch of damn alcoholics wrote to some bitch. And they had already tried all those loopholes. That's why they wrote it, or we couldn't outthink it. So suggestion 1, when I go to bed. Suggestion 2, when I wake up. Now, as I go through the day, they're going to tell me what to do. It says, in thinking about our day, we may face indecision. Now, I don't know about you, but I took may out and put will. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Now, I want you to really think about this. Before I came into this program, when I would face indecision, when I really didn't know which course to take, I was going to do something, right, wrong, or indifferent. I was like a bull in a china closet. And after I would make a mess out of shit, then I would say, hey man, I need a little help. See, I never thought about asking for help before I made a mess out of shit. I only asked for help after I made a mess out of shit. Now, listen to what it tells me to do when I'm facing indecision and I don't know which course to take. It says here, I ask God. Imagine that shit. So I'll say a little prayer and I ask for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. Now, what I basically just did was put it in God's hands. Now, how do you know? How do I know if I actually really put something in God's hands, or I just gave him lip service? This is how I know. The next thing says, I relax and take it easy. I don't struggle. That's how you know if you actually put something in God's hands. You don't worry about it anymore. You don't struggle with it. Because see, look, I can say out my mouth all day long, I turn that over to God, I put that in God's hands. But if I'm still wrestling with it, I'm still struggling with it, God's going to step back and go, okay, you little dumbass, it's yours. God's got about 1,000 solutions to any problem I could ever come up with. He just wants me to quit struggling with it. Now, in the beginning, when you first start this, is it hard to put something in God's hands? Of course it is. Because we've been used to running on self-will for so long, we don't know. We don't know how to put it in God's hands, and that's what we're trying to teach you. Now, when I actually put something in God's hands, listen to what it says. I'm often surprised how the right answers come after I've tried this for a while. I was actually like fucking shocked how the right answers came. And I was like, son of a bitch, that's what they've been telling me. Top of page 87. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration. You know, like when you're in that jail cell and you want to get out and you have that hunch or occasional inspiration, like, God, please get me out this hellhole. I will do whatever you say. And he does, and you don't. But these hunches or occasional inspirations, they're going to gradually become a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God. It's not probable you're going to be inspired at all times. And that's because you're going to quit 10th stepping and you're just going to give him a bunch of lip service. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas, like the obsession coming back. Nevertheless, we find our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on a plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. Now, they gave me 3 simple suggestions on how to improve my prayer and meditation life. They told me what to do when I go to bed, what to do when I wake up, and what to do as I go through the day. Pretty precise, pretty clear cut. And most alcoholics won't do it. Now, before we take us a little break, I want you to really listen to this. This is what I've found over the years. When I was probably about the 2 or 3 year mark, and things were going real good for me, and all the instincts, boy, God was really giving me some stuff. I started to rest on my laurels. And I was just giving him a bunch of lip service. Not out there, but in here, things started to go, I don't know, I just wasn't at peace like I was before. So I sit down and I'm talking to my sponsor, and he says, I said, man, I think I'm really slacking on my prayer and meditation. And we start talking about some things. Well, come to find out, I wasn't slacking on prayer and meditation. I was slacking on the 10th step. I wasn't making conscious contact with God before I prayed and meditated. That's why I wasn't getting nothing. And I hear that in meetings all the time. I think I'm slacking on prayer and meditation. I'm going to go buy this meditation book. And I'm thinking to myself, you jackass, you're slacking on the 10th step. And the best book you could possibly buy on prayer and meditation, watch this shit. You already got it. If you would just do what the damn thing says. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take us a little break. We're going to let you go to the potty. We're going to let you smoke you about 4, 5, 8 cigarettes, get the little nicotine fix. So you can come back in. We're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to go for about another 30 minutes or so. We're going to wrap up step 11. And we will see y'all in about 15 minutes. Okay? All right, we want to welcome y'all back from a little break. We're going to go ahead and finish up this little session, get it wrapped up. Step 11 is the session that we're on, where we're seeking through prayer and meditation to do one thing, and that's improve our conscious contact with God. Now, in order for me to improve a conscious contact, that implies I've already made conscious contact. Now, the way a person like me makes conscious contact with God is through the 10th step. I take that conscious contact and I improve on it with prayer and meditation. Now, in the first session, we went through and we gave you 3 simple suggestions outlined in the book. The first suggestion is when I retire at night. The second suggestion is as I on awakening. And the third suggestion is as I go through the day. Now, if I'm 10th stepping, I take these 3 suggestions when I go to bed, on awakening, and through the day. And I use those constantly. I'm going to start to really get to receive some real good direction on God's will. And I'm going to start to be able to conform Kevin's will with God's will. Now, we're going to go over and we're going to read some results, some promises I'm going to start to get when I'm doing 10 and 11, like the book says. I want you to go over to page 88. I want you to go down to the second sentence where it says, "Thy will be done." These are the results I'm going to start to get when I'm really 10th stepping and doing prayer and meditation in 11. I'm going to then be in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. Now, all of those things where they center is between this ear and this ear in the mind. I'm going to become much more efficient. I'm not going to tire so easily, for I'm not burning up energy foolishly as I did when I was trying to arrange life to suit myself. It works. It really does. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God. And it's a good idea to let God discipline me. It just feels a lot better when I let him. But one way or the other, he's going to discipline me. I let God discipline me in the simple way I just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. Now, a few more little points on 11. How many of y'all worry? See, what I was sort of taught was if I'm going to worry, don't pray. And if I'm going to pray, don't worry. You see, I can pray all day long, but if I'm still worrying about shit when I'm really telling God is, I really don't have that much faith in you. It's really just a bunch of lip service. So the worrying part, okay? If I'm going to pray, again, don't worry. And if I'm going to worry, don't pray. Now, God works through people because God is deep down in every man, woman, and child. You know, as I go through the day and I'm facing some indecision, what I may do every now and then, now this is a novel idea, I may pick up the phone and call my sponsor and tell him what's really going on. Not bits and pieces of the truth, but the whole truth. And I'll listen to what he's telling me. You know, I have the luxury because I got a lot of spiritually minded people who are around me all day. And I may go grab one of them and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I may run it by them and listen to what they say. I may bring it up in a meeting and listen to what some people are saying. Now, if 2 or 3 people are telling me the same thing, Two or three spiritually minded people who are really in this program are telling me the same thing. That's God telling me, hey, dumbass, how many more people do you want me to send you to tell you what to do? Now, how many of us, we've had some well-intentioned, spiritually minded people putting our lives all through our lives, and we won't listen to them. So today, when I'm facing some indecision, I really don't know which course to take, I really sit down and listen for suggestions from people who have my best interest in mind. Now, I'm not telling you if 2 or 3 or 4 of your crackhead friends say, let's go smoke some crack, that's God telling you what to do. I said spiritually minded people who are really into this program and who have your best interest in mind. Now, we're going to recap a little bit. I'm 10-stepping. I'm spot checking all day. I'm doing the date when I retire at night. I constructively review my day. On awakening, I ask God to direct my thinking. And as I go through the day, I pause. When I'm agitated, I'm doubtful, and I ask for the right thought or action. So I'm really putting this into action. I'm really 10-stepping. I'm really doing some prayer and meditation. Now, what I'm going to start to do is receive. And I'm going to start to receive like I never had before. And the one who receives, that's the one that can give it away. But I can't give away something I've never received. Now, as a result of the first 11 steps, see 1 through 11, as a result of the first 11 steps, I've had the spiritual awakening, or as some people call it, a personality change as a result of the first 11 steps. Because see, step 12 says, haven't had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, the first 11. In the 12th step, it says this is when I carry the message. And the message that I'm going to carry to the newcomer is as a result of the first 11 steps, I've recovered. And if you want what I got, you got to do what I've done. See? But I can't carry a message that I've never received as a result of the first 11 steps. So to sum up this session, steps 1, 2, and 3 have put me in a position. 1, they tell me the problem. 2, they give me the solution. 3, they tell me to just make a decision. I'm going to carry out the step 3 decision by taking steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And once I take those steps, I put myself in a position to really start to grow in 10, 11, and 12. So next session, we're going to devote it entirely to the 12th step, carrying this message. What is the message? Who can carry the message? So we will see y'all next session. Y'all have a good day.